Hello everyone. Soon I'll be going to Detroit to the draft and represent our beloved Jacksonville Jaguars. I've been given this to wear. Do you like it? It's very special, isn't it? So what on earth is the draft all about? We've got nothing in England that bears any resemblance to it. So I want to explain just a little bit about it to perhaps help you. Did you know that before 1936, there were only 9 NFL teams, and the ones with the most money got the best players that finished college, and that just simply isn't fair, is it? So a chap called Bert Bell, who was the Eagles owner at the time, suggested a draft which leveled the whole playing field as such. And he came up with the idea that the worst team from the previous year got to pick first. Isn't that wonderful? So the first draft took place in 1936 in a Philadelphia hotel room of all places, where representatives of the 9 NFL teams of that time, all equipped with their notebooks, decided who was having who. Now you have to remember, these were difficult times, and there was a very real chance that 1 or 2 of the NFL teams would fold if they didn't basically have those decent players. Indeed, did you know that of around the 90 players that were in that very first draft, only a couple of dozen of them ended up actually playing in the NFL? And the reason why is because, as I say, things were tough, and the NFL weren't the greatest payers. They could get a much better paid job out in Civvy Street, so it's nothing like what it is today. So let's talk about the draft as we know it today. Did you know that it's only been televised since the 1980s, and since then it's been slowly growing and slowly building momentum, and now it's this huge spectacle of the NFL that we all now embrace. So how does this draft thing work? You know, at first thought, it can be very, very confusing. But let's try and clarify and simplify for you. Basically, we have 32 teams. Some finish really well, some finish not so well. Now, the ones that finish not so well will get to pick before the teams that have done better. There are 7 rounds, so 7 goes. So the worst team will pick number 1 of the first round. Then the other 31 other teams will have their go, and then they'll go on to the second round, where that worst team then has their second pick, if you understand me. So there can be several situations that can perhaps throw what we call a spanner in the works. What if 2 teams finish with the same record? Then the league would have to do a series of tiebreakers to decide who gets to pick first. What happens if one of those NFL teams loses their best player through what we call free agency, where his contract is finished and he's upped and left them without a main player? Then there's something that the NFL can award, and that's a compensatory pick. So this compensatory pick is an extra pick or extra picks that can take place after round 2. So between rounds 3 and 7, basically a team that has lost a key player can get extra picks of the rookies that have finished college. So round 1 is done on a Thursday evening. Each team will have 10 minutes to decide who they want. So round 2 is done on the Friday evening. Each team will get 7 minutes to decide who they want. And that same evening, there will be round 3, where they get 5 minutes to decide. And that leaves us with rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 to be done on the final day, which is the Saturday, and each round again continues to be given less time to choose their players. So we've been talking about the draft. Are you confused yet? Me too. But I will try and continue to explain it as simply as possible. Now, there is one thing that can affect teams' picks, and that is what they call the trades. If you imagine the team's picks as currency, then each team has the option to perhaps use their picks as currency to perhaps get another player from another team.
So, with a slight change in scenery, as you see, I will continue. So, let's talk about the stars of the show, the players. Who can actually be part of the draft? Who is, as they say, eligible? Well, of course, there are rules, and many of them. They must, for example, have been out of high school for at least 3 years. This will ensure that players are not too young. And that 3 years will generally elapse during the player's college career. The vast majority would complete their degrees before seeking permission to enter the draft. Sometimes, however, but rarely, a player may want to seek permission earlier, before they finish their studies, if they are deemed to be good enough. But be warned, if you seek permission early and the NFL say no, then you can no longer play college ball. So players generally enter the draft immediately after the end of their college career, and they cannot attempt later drafts. Rest assured, though, that there is a huge team in the NFL that ensure all boxes are ticked before being allowed to enter the draft. You know, the more I learn about the draft, the more I love this entire concept. One thing that is for certain is that the draft will continue to grow in popularity as more people follow college football. And college football, even now, is huge. Did you know, for example, that the biggest capacity stadiums are in fact college stadiums? Anyway, one very final thought for you in terms of the draft. You'll see that a lot of emphasis is put on the first round, day one. But I just want to mention a certain Mr. Brady, number 12. Did you know he was in the 6th round, number 199? What about Mr. Purdy, who was the final pick, number 262? So you just never know. Cheerio!